to what I think has become the issue of the week that you have been integrally involved in, Nigel, and that is the dance performance by Diversity, the dance group, on Britain's Got Talent. That was a straight out sort of party political broadcast on behalf of Black Lives Matter. So far, the complaints pouring into Ofcom from disgruntled viewers is soaring. I think it's about 16,000 now. It's getting towards, it's certainly the second most highest complained about programme in the history of Ofcom. It might even be the highest now. And what have Ofcom done so far? Nothing. It's an outrage.
It is. I spoke to Ofcom this morning, actually, Kevin, and they have received over 15,500. And their statement is, we are assessing these complaints against our broadcasting rules, but yet to decide whether or not to investigate.
But wait a minute, Nigel. They said this, what was it, 5 days ago, on Tuesday or Monday?
Right. They say that as per their procedures, we aim to complete initial assessments within 15 working days. What I've discovered is that not even Ofcom understand their own rules, because she claimed that due impartiality rules apply only to news programming, but kindly sent me their guidance for their rules, which says central to the application of Section 5 is the concept of due impartiality. Depending on the facts in each case, due impartiality may need to be applied in all programming genres, including cinema, films, show and television, comedy programmes, or indeed televised dramas. So it's not just about news programmes. It is about programmes like Britain's Got Talent that has a controversial or political statement. So if the Ofcom spokespeople don't understand or haven't read their very complicated rules and their very complicated guidance, which is like going through some legal document, how are people who are trying to complain? My
guess, Nigel, Ofcom are squirming, trying to get out of having to deliberate on this clear breach of broadcasting rules, if you ask me. They don't want to get involved in this because, of course, Black Lives Matter, Diversity's dance in favour of them is part of the new political orthodoxy that we all have to accept. But if we're going to accept, and you and I have made this clear all the way down the line, Ashley Banjo and Diversity, I utterly respect your right to support Black Lives Matter. I utterly respect your right to dance in support of Black Lives Matter and to read their poem, but a Saturday night entertainment show is not the place to do it. If we're going to allow that, then we have to allow a dance in favour of the English Defence League and Tommy Robinson. It's the same.
That's right. I mean, if ITV want to make a documentary, or Ashley Banjo makes a documentary about this issue that is very dear to him, then I think that would be a fantastic way of getting the message across to young people, and people would be flagged up to know what is happening. It's not put into a pre-recorded show. This wasn't a live event like Jarvis Cocker running on stage at the Brits or whatever. This was a pre-recorded show. Everyone knew what was happening. It doesn't surprise me much about Ofcom sort of prevaricating. I mean, the chairman and vice chair are both sort of ex-mandarins from the civil service. Their director of content, Kevin Backhurst, is a former news controller, public school, St John's, Cambridge. You probably know the background, Kevin. So,
of course, yeah.
That's the situation there. Now, the ITV, interestingly, say that this performance opened up important topics of conversation, not least that one of their judges, Alicia Dixon, said to anyone who criticised...
You can kiss my black backside.
But further, she's now opened up a conversation with fellow judge David Williams and more or less slated his inappropriate comedies
when he was in Little Britain playing black characters and things like that, blacking up,
which again is possibly a valid comment. They claim it was said in joke. They said it was just because you put someone through and that's getting him back. But the point I would make is, if you don't have political statements in an entertainment show, you don't have your judges going out on a limb and falling out with each other and having conversations about people's past. So this all stems from a decision by ITV, by Britain's Got Talent, to put in a controversial dance for some. Some think it's quite valid. But the point is, the knock-on effect is 15,500 people have complained, not all of them because they object to Black Lives Matter. They object to their children watching this political statements. They're not all anti-Black Lives Matter. And Alicia Dixon is also then having issues with David Williams. So I would say that this has not been a particularly great week for Britain's Got Talent, ITV or Ofcom.
Yeah, I mean, but it's as I say, of course, people like you and I were questioning whether this should be on a family entertainment show, the party political broadcast on behalf of Black Lives Matter. We question whether that was the right arena. Clearly, a great many Britain's Got Talent fans, members of the public, agree with us. Of course, we're all being dismissed as racists. But these people, our critics, don't get it. It's nothing to do with racism. We're against racism as much as they are. Alicia Dixon is not getting the crux of what the problem is here. The problem is that it's pretty clear to me there's a serious case for saying broadcasting rules of impartiality were seriously broken, and it has to be investigated. All these people, massive amounts of complaints coming in, are they to be disrespected by being ignored by Ofcom, or is Ofcom really going to take another 2 weeks to decide whether or not its own rules have been broken? It can't be that tough, Ofcom. Do these people a favour, show them some respect, and at least launch an investigation. What's wrong with launching an investigation?
That's right. I mean, why they have to keep referring whether their own rules have been broken, as I said earlier. Now, I sit here in my Specials T-shirt. They were a multicultural band. I know some of the band, and they promoted diversity, if you like, 40 years ago, very controversially at the time. But if you look at the fact that as a journalist, I report on what is a story, and the story here, quite clearly, is that people complained about a political statement. Some people think it was right, some people think it was wrong. It's not my judgment to talk about this or to report on it. If 15,500 people complain about a subject, if 100,000 people watch the YouTube video we did the other day about this very subject, then those people have a voice, and we have a right to put the point of view, to put both sides of the story and let people make a decision on what Ofcom is doing or not doing and why ITV made the decision. It's journalism. It's not taking sides. Unfortunately, these days, Kevin, people have to take a side on this thing. And if you don't take that side, you're seen as being racist, or you're seen as being somehow wrong thinking. I would say I'm just being balanced.
I think the great British public have had enough of being lectured to like this, and whatever Ashley Banjo thinks, he seems to think that everybody's behind him. They're clearly not. He was lecturing to the British public in an entirely inappropriate setting. Just before you go, somebody's won £1 million for the first time in 14 years on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He's a socialist. What's his name? Dean Fear or something. Great name. Why didn't he stand up when he won and say, vote Labour? I mean, how would that have gone down?
That's right. I mean, fair play to him. He won $1 million. His brother won 500,000 last year. He was a teacher at Haberdashers, something or other in school in Shropshire. And one of his famous ex-pupils was Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I wonder whether Jeremy Corbyn would have got to 15 answers on
he wouldn't have got the first one. Guy's only got 2 A levels or something, hasn't he?
Well, I think he would have got the abbreviation the NHS stands for what? I think Jeremy might have just got that one for £100, to be fair to him.
Yeah, but it was a good bit of telly. The trouble is, he answered all the questions so easily. Even I knew the final one. I'm not sure these questions are that tough anymore.
I think they're dumbed down. I think
they're dumbed down. Even I knew the final question, the Blackbeard one. I knew that. I mean, if I know it, this means these questions have really been dumbed down, and so I
think they were desperate to get £1 million.
Yeah, they were. You're right.
I think they chose the candidate and chose the questions quite carefully.
Yeah, and your final question is 2 + 2. What does that equal? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And there was no coughing in the audience because there was no audience. So
yeah, of course, yeah. Well, that's one good thing. And if you get coughing in the audience now, it spells something far more serious than cheating. It spells a pandemic. Always a pleasure, Nigel. Let's do it again next week. That's Nigel Pauley, veteran showbiz journalist. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.